Hello, my name is Vijay Nagarajan, and today I'm going to teach you how to use classes and objects to create a little simple program. This program will take in a length, a width, and a height, and then it will print out the volume. This is going to be a class, so we're going to create our own data type. Now, what classes are just you creating your own data type, and classes have attributes, and then they have methods. Methods are like verbs, while attributes are like kind of like adjectives that describe it. So right here, I have the program. So it will be basically this. Of course, I'm going to simplify it for you, so we won't actually probably have inputs and we'll only have actual numbers. But this is actually what you can do. I want to show you what the final project in a more edited way with inputs and everything can be. Watch. Let it load. So the height. So let's say the height is 12. Let's say the length is 15. Let's say the length is 15. Let's say the width is 5. Then it will print out all these as doubles because you can have like a 0.5 length. I didn't specify the units. You can specify the units in there, but it's not hard. And then it prints out the volume, 900. Now there's many ways to use it, but this one is going to teach us how to use classes. And classes are super important. Now, this is a basic class. You can only code this without classes. But there are many programs that are so complicated with classes. It's so easy. Now, classes are a little complicated, and even I'm still learning them. In fact, I just started learning classes. But this is a simple program, which means as long as you understand what truly a class is, as soon as you understand that, you should be good. So we'll create our class, and it's a rectangular prism. So I'm going to call it RPR. RPR stands for rectangular. REPR, rectangular prism. Now in your classes, I'd like to have the first letter capitalized. I think that's what you're supposed to do. And like always, we don't want the parentheses. We just want it like this. I prefer to call it indent. So classes is like creating your own data type. Okay? Creating your own data type. Okay? So when you create your own data type, what are data types? Well, let's actually take this class out and just put it out. So the primitive data types include integers, float, string. So one thing different between, there's a bunch of things different between Java and Python, but there's some similar things. But one different thing is that in Java, string is actually not a primitive data type, and they have another data type called character. But in Python, we don't have character, and string is a primitive data type. We also have a data type called Boolean. Now, Boolean returns either a true or false. So you can use that like Boolean Boolean equals x greater than y. So if x is greater than y, it'll be true. If else, it'll be false. So we can have let's see what other data types are there. There's now this is not a primitive data type. Lists are actually, they're made up of other data types. Like you have integers in lists. Like list is like a storage. And then there's tuples, which are immutable lists, and then there's dictionaries, where there's key value pairs. Dictionary. And in dictionaries, there's a key and there's a value. So you can call the key and then it'll print out the value. And there's like let me just show you what a dictionary is. L equals, and then you just have the dictionary. You can say 7 to November. And I spelled that wrong, but it doesn't really matter. Autumn. And then you can, it definitely spelled that wrong too. But then you can put like others. These dictionaries are just other data types. Now these are data types. These are the data types you'll mostly use. There's 7 of them, but I think there's 9 total data types. I think I may have missed some. What did I miss? I have the 4. Boolean, what other types are there? There's I might have missed some, like what did I miss? I may have missed a few times, but there are other, of course, there's gonna be other things. Now, what are classes and what are objects? Well, let's say we have a variable called y and it equals hello. Okay, hello is definitely a string. So the class would be string. So our class equals string. And then y, you can say y or hello is the object. So the object is the instance, the instance of the class on an object. Now this is a little complicated, but basically the class would be string and the object would be y, or you could say the object is hello. Okay? So now we've gone over that, let's begin. We'll begin our code. We have a class and we'll call it RECP. RECP. Now in every class, no matter what class you're doing, this menu, something called def init 2 underscores init 2 underscores. I'm using Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is my IDE, and it gives me something called IntelliSense, which kind of predicts what you're going to do. So we have def init, and since it's a function, we need a parentheses, and in every function inside of class you have self. But when you're calling this class or using this class, self will refer to like the variable. It'll refer to the object it's acting on, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Now we're going to have a other thing. So our other things are length, width, and height. Our parameters are self. You always need self in every function inside a class. That's just the rule because there are many reasons. For one, it refers to itself, so it allows the code to work. And then you have length, width, and height because that's what we need in a rectangular prism. You have a length, you have a width, and you have a height. And yeah. And our init, we're just going to define every variable. So we're going to say self.l equals L. This means that we have a variable called self.l. You need self.dot so it allows. And then we have a parameter called L. So if they type in L as 7, then self.l's value is 7. Then we have self.w. And it equals W. Now, same concept. You have a width variable called self.w, and you need self.w because you need that every function. And then you have a W, which is the parameter. Kind of same concept with the self.h equals height. Pretty simple. Now we have created our init function. So what does init actually do? Well, you could say it initiates the class. It's kind of like it's called init because init is a short form for saying initiates. It's initiating the class. Now we have a function that we're going to call, that's going to be our volume. So this, you can call it volume, but I'm just going to call it vol because that's short and easy. Now in our def vol, what we're going to do is we're going to put in our parameter self. So we don't need a length LWH because we have to store them as variables. But we always need self in the function. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable. Now, this does not need self dot because we're not using a parameter or something like that. This is not need of self. This is a variable we're calling inside the function. It's not a variable that will be determined outside of the class. It will be a variable determined inside the class. So this variable is called v, and this v stands for the volume, and volume is equal to self.l times self.w times self.h. Now, what is volume? Well, volume is length times width times height. That is just really what volume of a rectangular prism is. It's the length times the width times the height. Or you could say the length is the area of the base times the height. And the area of the base of the base of the rectangular prism is length times width. So length times width times height. That's a formula. And our length, the variable for our length is self.l. The variable for the width is self.w. The variable for the height is self.h. So we're multiplying them. And we have a variable called v. Now we don't need to do self.v because v is just a variable we'll call inside function. It's not going to be called outside. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a return statement. And what return does, it returns a value. Now you can return something. You can return true. Return my name is poop. But you can also return a variable, or you can return an integer, like 7. So we'll be returning v. And then when we print out this function, it allows us so that what happens is we can, when we print out, it'll print out the value we return. So we just finished the class. Now let's review every single thing in the class. We have a class called class RECP, which stands for rectangular prism. Now you can kind of call it everyone. I like, remember, just keep the R capital, first R capital. Then our class is really just creating your own data type. Like if you have a variable called y and it is equal to 7, the class would be integer and the object would be y. Or you could say that the object is 7. Now, there are attributes and methods. A method is kind of like a verb. It's kind of like a verb or a built-in function. And we're creating our own methods. Def-vol is a method. We're creating our own methods. And in every class, you need a function called init, which takes in self. And every function in the class takes in self. And definite, you define your parameters, and you always need self as a parameter. And when you're doing this, init initiates the function. Remember, init is 2 underscores, init 2 underscores. Now we're going to create a variable. This is outside the class, and you can call it everyone. I'm going to call it x. X equals RECP parentheses. Now in this parentheses, we're going to put our values for L, W, and H. So we're putting our values. Now we're going to do RECP parentheses. This is doing the init function. So we're going to put our values for L, W, and H. So our values for L, W, and H, or let's say values are let's just put 32, 24, and 99. Okay, this is the rectangle, and let's just say these are in centimeters. Okay, it doesn't really matter. So we have our length. Their length is 32, our width is 24, and our height is 99. So that's a super tall object, but the height is much higher than the length and the width. Okay, now we can say x dot L. That's our parameter, x dot L. So we can say that. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a list. Now this is just basically all we're doing is now printing out the class. So what you could really do is print x dot L plus, and then we're just doing concatenation plus x dot W. Now you can't just print x, that won't work. But you can do print x dot L, that's the length, plus, yeah, I put my quotation mark so you can see the spacing, plus x dot W plus x dot H. Now I want you to watch what this does. Now this won't print out the volume, it's just going to print out, wait, what? The plus unsupported for, okay. Okay, I think I know I missed out. You can't just do this. Just print out. We'll see what happens when I print out x dot L. Sorry, I think I did a concatenation error. 32. Okay, that works. So what we can do is we can print x dot L, and we can now since we do this add thing, it's going to add 32 and 24. So what we want to do is what we can do is we can take a variable called a and say it's equal to string x.l. Basically, you can just print x.l, print x.w, and then print x.h. Now, let's run this, and it's going to print 32, 24, and 99. So we've finished printing our thing. Now we need to print the volume. So up here next to x, we're going to define a variable called a. And a is equal to x.vol parentheses. Now, we're doing a method is acted upon our variable x, which is of type RECP. Okay, so we're doing x because volume is a method. Okay, it's a method, and a method is kind of like a built-in function, or it's a function inside of a class that you can act upon. So vol, because x is of type RECP, we can act upon a function onto x. This vol is a function that can be acted upon x. It's a method. Okay, that's pretty much it. And then we can print a. Now watch this. I want you to see this. Now that's the volume. And if we go to Google search and do 32 times 24 times 99, that's what it's going to give you. So we do 32 times 24 times 99, 76032. And we go back to Visual Studio Code, 76032. Okay, so pretty simple. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to now do a simple thing. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to print out the inputs. So what we're going to do is we're going to say a variable called, we'll do B, C, and D. Now, they're all going to be, B, C, and D are all going to be inputs. So we'll do input, and then we'll put enter the length and the width, then input, enter the height. Okay, so now what we can do is we can put in B, C, and D. So what we're doing is we're replacing the arguments with, instead of integers, we're putting variables. And these variables are just inputs. And that's pretty much all we're doing. So enter the length. Let's say we're making it 5. The width will make it 3. And then the height will make it 2. And we cannot multiply non-integers of type string. So what we want to do is we want to turn these into doubles because they're auto-sent to string. Because we're not using the thing, we need doubles because these inputs cannot multiply strings. If you get the error, that just means you need to turn it into a double or an integer. I'm doing double because it kind of makes more sense. B equals double is not defined. Oh, sorry. In Python, they use float. I'm just so used to Java because I've been doing a bunch of Java projects. Hopefully this works. Enter the length. So let's say our length is 5, 3, and 2. And bing, bang, boom. 5 times 3, 15. 15 times 2 is 30. Now let's review each part of the code and go over it very carefully. So we have a thing called RECP. Now, def init is, and in every class we have to have an init function that initiates the function. So we have a del self, and it's equal to, and then we have a parameter that we need, and we have a length, a width, and a height. And we do a variable called self.l, which is equal to the parameter l. Self.w is equal to the parameter w, and self.h is equal to the parameter h. And you need self.dot. Just remember that. Then we create a method called def vol. Now vol needs to take in self. We don't need to take in l, w, and h because we have them stored as variables. And we don't need self.v because we're not taking a value from outside the class. This is going to be inside the class. And we have a variable called v, which stands for volume. Now the formula for volume is length times width times height. And we're doing the variable for length times the variable of width times the variable of height. And then we're returning that value. Now, what you could do is you could return this value, but it's easier to understand if you are storing it in a variable. Then we have 3 inputs that will take in the length, width, and height, and you need them to be floats. And we have a variable called x, which is of type class, and we put in the b, c, and d, which are the arguments. Then we have a variable that is a method that is acted upon to the class, and then we are just printing out the length, the width, the height, and then the volume. So you can experiment with this, but thank you for watching, and I will see you later.